happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com, and this is Disconnect to Connect one-word conversations. Now, many of you know, or I guess if you're awake right now, or I guess you're in the U.S., this is Mother's Day, for us, and I think for the word of the day, that the conversation that we're going to have around the word of the day being strong, I think it is apropos, I guess, to have that. But there's a lot of things around strong for me, how it comes up, that that I wanted to have a conversation and see if there's anything that opens up for me. So as I do, I look at all the parts and pieces of this technology, and then I bring in one of my friends. And so, good morning.
Hey Bill, how you doing?
I am doing great. As I do, I ask my friends to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Okay. So my name is Paula Dozier, and I guess you could say I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm on my second business venture. My first business venture was a personal concierge service. That's how we met. Did that for about a decade, and a couple of years, maybe actually 2 years ago, felt the entrepreneurial bug biting again, and decided to strike out with my husband, and we started Doggos. It is a dog park. I know, isn't it cute? It's adorable, right?
Wonderful.
Thank you. Colorful. But it's a dog park and pub here in Greensboro. We're the only one of our kind outside of Charlotte in the state of North Carolina, and we're probably one of maybe 20 across the U.S. So it's a really fun place where people can hang out with their dogs, have a drink, meet new friends, and it's just a super chill vibe. So that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years now.
Okay, well, great. So, the first question, and I don't want to say the only question, but one of the few questions that I ask is, how does the word strong land for you?
It's funny because when you sent the graphic of the words that for the week, who would be discussing what and what word we would be discussing, I had a really interesting reaction to the word strong. And I do have, as a person, a love-hate relationship with the word strong. Strong for me has been something, I think, for my whole life that I'm discovering is probably an intrinsic quality of who I am. But for the longest time, I really didn't want that to be the case, just because of the way other people perceive the word strong and perceive the character of strong.
Right. No, I totally get that. I think in some cases, for me, most of the times people would say, oh, Bill, you're so strong. I would immediately look for all the places that I wasn't, and kind of like, hey, here is where I'm not. So you wouldn't say that if you knew. So I want to let you know all the other places that I see myself as not strong.
Yeah.
So I cannot be held to that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. It gives you, I think when people think of you as a strong person and very well-meaning people who love you and want to support you, they want to encourage you with that word and like sort of, speak that word over you and be like, but you're so strong. It for me, sometimes it feels like I'm not being given permission to be transparent about all the places I'm falling apart, because I'm expected to be this, whatever the word strong is to that person. That, a strong person doesn't think this way. A strong person doesn't act this way. A strong person doesn't make these choices. And so strong is a double-edged sword for sure, because I don't deny that I have a strong personality, and just the word strong itself, it speaks about a lot of the things that are true about me. But the way it shows up in the world and the way people perceive it can sometimes be a negative, and it could be a blessing too, but it can also very much be negative.
And I think, and sometimes, for me, strong, I don't embrace that until I am, I guess, confronted by something that, and then there is this reality that, oh, go, I guess I could do that. I guess I could do 5 more push-ups, or I guess or I guess I could, you know, do something that I didn't think I had the strength to do, or, and it's kind of shocking to me, or, or something, or it's like, it's a surprise. It's like a happy surprise, but it's still a surprise. And it's not something that I go into with, I guess, with that awareness, if that makes sense.
Sure. Totally. I think people sometimes think strong is a choice you make. And I guess it can be. I guess if it's a more lighthearted scenario or a more lighthearted challenge that's being presented to you, I guess you can make the choice to go, you know what? I got this. I can do this. I'm gonna be strong. I'm gonna get it done. But then other times, I think after the fact, you come through something and you're like, dude, I didn't know how many levels
right.
I would have to deal with, and I cannot believe I just survived that. But okay, I guess that is good, and yay for me. And it's just sort of an after the fact of, dang, okay, all right, I guess what's next. So I think yeah, strong is sometimes a choice, but sometimes it's a realization afterwards.
Right. It's that, it's the, the connector words. I was talking, I guess yesterday when we were talking about credibility, and how there's connecting words to words that kind of, if you want to have credibility, there has to be a level of trust or likability and all that other kind of things that connect it. And I think strong is, is the same thing. There is, I think to show up for me as strong, there has to be some confidence, or there has to be, there's all these connections to that, to kind of let me know, our courage, it's like to give me access to strong, or to my strength. I have to be brave, or have courage to kind of do that. Do you have any connections that kind of show up?
Totally. The way you said that, the way you access strong, and it's true. Sometimes strong does feel like a superpower that you have to like dig into your pocket, and you have to pull it out, and you have to go, all right, this is going to have to get me through. And the way you get to it, for me, and I would agree with you 100%, is I don't know, it might be confidence. Sometimes I'm actively aware of, I possess a confidence in a certain area. Sometimes it's more just like, I have no idea how this is going to go down, but I'm willing to give it a shot. So I don't know what that word is, whether that's willingness or bravery or whatever the case may be. And then other times it's like you know what, why not me? If someone's going to go out there and make a dog park and pub, if somebody is going to go out there and do something crazy, why not me? I mean, it could be the dude sitting on the bench next to me, but why can't it be me? So I guess that's a bravery too. And so that's where that's what gets me into a lot of the situations where I learn how strong I am. Strong isn't the thing that's leading me into those situations. Strong is the thing that gets me through. But what gets me in the door is the why not me, or, I think I can do that kind of situation.
Right. I kind of can relate to your serial entrepreneur label.
Yes, you can.
And like you said, it's, strong doesn't get me to start a business, or to kind of feel that I can do something. It keeps me there. And then sometimes for me, strong has shown up as strong-willed, and are stubborn, or and not, I guess not really being aware of reality, or what's so. And it's like, in some cases, as entrepreneur, I guess for me as entrepreneurs, there is you have to suspend reality to kind of move forward.
Oh, totally.
Because if you just say, this is what is, and this is what I want to do, all right, I'm gonna, I'm gonna have to ignore that or kind of
Yeah.
be aware of that and just kind of move forward and have the
Yeah.
strength or have the ability to kind of make uh, shift the reality or kind of create the reality, closer to what you see as an entrepreneur. But
Hmm.
it takes a level of strength. It takes a level of stick to itiveness that sometimes, like you said, can get you into trouble, but it
Totally.
keeps you going too.
Totally. Yeah. I think for anyone who has been an entrepreneur before, um, especially for those who have been an entrepreneur and failed in something, or who had something end and they didn't really want it to end, or who have had hard times in their business, which is probably a lot of folks. Um, you're right. You have to find that place of digging in your heels. And yeah, that's definitely that strength of endurance, you know what I mean? And endurance to run the race and stay and withstand and
Right.
whatever comes at you. And then there's also a different strength that you have to access when it's time to let go. You know what I
Right.
mean? I think that a lot of people, for me, certainly in my life, strong has presented itself as setting boundaries and
Hmm.
making really hard decisions, and having really hard conversations. Those are
Right.
the things that actually people, my husband tells me all the time. He's like, babe, you're probably the best person I've ever known who can have a really difficult conversation with somebody. And I'm like, thank you. I,
Right. Right. Right.
I appreciate that. I
Right.
don't, it had to be done, and
Right.
you try to do it with as much compassion as you can. But yeah, I think for me, being strong, I've also learned that there comes a point where you have to stand up from a bad situation and let it go, and
Right.
be okay with whatever, however you leave it, whatever people think. You can't carry it. You got to know strong. You have to know when you have to let things go and when you have to carry them. And that's a hard thing to learn, especially for entrepreneurs, because I think we're
Right.
prone to want to hold on to something and squeeze every ounce of possibility out of it. And it's
Right.
hard to know. It's hard to know when it's done.
Yeah, and when in the context or the framework of disconnect to connect, look in and when we look at strong, for me, that I can see that sometimes me acting in my strength or in that word, I cause disconnection, with people because it's like
Mm,
it's too
mm,
much. It's right. It's the
totally.
the goal was to create more connections, to basically prove to myself and prove to others that I'm in this. I'm there. I have what it takes. I have a strong back. I'm doing it. But too often when I would stand firm or really kind of nestle down and I would like lose people and I would there was this falling off of and these disconnections that I would think that it's like, what is that coming from? Why is that happening when I am basically doing the opposite of that, So I
Sure,
don't,
sure, sure.
have you experienced, something where you felt that, I'm going to stand firm, but it's caused more disconnection than connection?
Oh, totally, totally. I think anybody who uh, has a strong personality can at times relate to that. But what I think is, and I was thinking on before we got on this uh, conversation was, or before this call rather, I was thinking about how strength for me when when I'm trying to act strong, like you said something about how sometimes when you try to act strong or when you're trying to prove to others and prove to yourself, oh, I got a strong back, I got this, that
Right.
it creates unintended consequences. And so for me, I've learned that uh, you have to temper your strength, or I don't mean temper as in reduce it. I mean like uh, when I'm trying to act strong, when I'm trying to put on strong, when I'm trying to like put on my big girl pants or whatever, sometimes I come off as there's something that is off-putting to people. But when I'm just honest, when I'm just genuine and when I'm just open about whatever is going on, I find that my strength gets me a lot further with people. And so I
Right.
don't know, it's kind of like, it makes me think of like being a little vulnerable with your strength. I find that when you merge or bring in some vulnerability or some transparency of what you're going through, you get a better result with other people. And when I was younger, that used to annoy the. Can I swear on here or no?
Yeah, you
Yes.
can. Right.
Okay, cool. It used to annoy the shit out of me. And
Right.
when I was little, and because I didn't understand, I was such a force looking back. I didn't know it at the time. But have you ever had a family member show you like an old video from when you were a kid or something, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was me? Or
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
maybe you were like, oh, I was so cool, but
Right.
that was not my experience.
Right.
But I had some family members who I connected with for the first time, that my dad's family my dad and his family kind of got scattered all over the world when they were younger because their parents died young, but they had this video of me when I was very little and I'd never seen it. And I was just running around bossing everybody around. I think I was 7. And
Right.
I was not having any of it. And I was like, you
Right.
need to go here. You need to do that. I don't like what you're doing. And I was just
Right.
like, I don't know. I was obnoxious. And, but I never perceived myself that way. I think because I didn't have the self-awareness, when you're
Right.
7, 8 years old.
Right.
And it really annoyed me because I would have a vision for something and I'd be
Right.
like, I don't understand why you're not doing this. And so I would just be strong with my opinions and strong with what I wanted to do and all the time. And it caused a lot of social issues for me sometimes
Right.
as a young person. And I learned as I grew up with connections with, friends and family members, that oftentimes if I just kind of was less trying to be something and more just letting myself be who I was, I came off as much better, and I was received a lot better.
Right. I think, and I appreciate you sharing that because there was a distinction that you made that I've never gotten before. That there's a difference between an awareness and a self-awareness. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, and most of the times we operate under an awareness of this is what's happening, this is not happening, and this is how I can make a difference in this area, or I want to make a difference in this area. And it can come off as bossy and all that other kind of stuff. But the self-awareness is how we are showing up, how people see us, and how we are being perceived. And with that self-awareness, we will have what I think is a cousin of strong, or something, of humility. There's a
Mm-hmm.
level of humility that comes in with the more that we just show up as ourselves, and just, hey, I'm good, you're good. Let's kind of make stuff happen here.
Yeah, totally.
It just it is just received, better and more.
Totally.
And I think, like was mentioned before, and I shared that I too often try to make myself strong, try to, build myself up and kind of prove to other people. And that's a totally different energy to kind of get stuff done.
Yeah.
It was the 7-year-old, make this happen, do this, all that kind of stuff. This
Yeah.
is not right, and all that other
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And it is received, a totally different way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think people strong in our culture is oftentimes celebrated, but there is oftentimes a penalty for being strong as well.
Right.
But strong, when you think of people who have proven strength or who have been strong, definitely it's the people who have just kind of just stood in the middle of a storm. I think that
Right.
they didn't necessarily, throw themselves into the middle of it just to see if they could survive it.
Right.
They weren't trying to be brave. They just kind of had to happen. And I think that when you I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I guess I'm just agreeing with you that if you're not putting on a front, if you're not trying to put on strong, if you're not trying
Right.
to put on brave, oftentimes it's a lot easier to make those connections with people instead of, like you said, breaking them.
Most of our, I'm trying to think, is most of our awareness or people's acceptance of strong or our strength is after the results or after something has happened. If you understand what I mean, it's
Yeah.
like because a body, for me, a bodybuilder just came to mind. That you you see the muscles, you see all that kind of stuff. So we equate, oh, this person must be strong. And in some cases, um, I have heard that most bodybuilders don't have the strength that you think they have. It is just, it just looks that, that it's just the appearance of strength. But it is that recognition that after, a difficult moment in our life happened, or after we had a hard conversation, then there is awareness of just how much strength we had, just how much um, access we had to, you know, to the strong, of our lives, and I think for me, the reason why my love-hate relationship with strong is it feels like there needs to be a domination. you know I need to, my strong or my strength has to dominate a situation, has to overtake something, and I just that just doesn't land with me. I'm a consensus type person, and I just want to kind of work things out and really want make a difference, or or have an influence on something, but not dominate something, not force the issue. And
Yeah.
I think the more that I'm able to, I guess, let that go or recognize when I'm showing up that way, I can make different choices.
Totally. Yeah, totally. I think you have to, when you are strong, when you have, because, for me, strong is all I, as I have aged, I've learned to let go of or I've learned to monitor and manage and meter out all of the really kind of overwhelming characteristics of strong. I am loud, I am opinionated, I will tell you what I think, I will speak up in a room, I
Right.
I will tell you when something is not right. And I can't help it. I've just always been that way. And so
Right.
as I get older, I've learned that domineering presence um,
Right.
doesn't serve me in every situation. In fact, it doesn't serve me in most situations.
Right.
Even in
But it feels
situations.
good, right? Sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
sometimes, especially when you're mad. You know what I mean? If
Right.
you're mad, it's like I'm gonna throw something. But it doesn't serve me the way I want it to serve me or others. You know what I mean? Because I think you and
Right.
I are similar in the sense that we want what's best for everybody at the table.
Right.
And so and I can't speak for somebody who has that kind of domineering personality and doesn't care about people. I can't speak for that person. They may not
Right.
have that self-awareness, but I think letting strong show up differently, show up with that tender, like I was thinking about strong as like a tree that's in a storm, and it bends, you know what I mean? And
Right.
even if it looks flimsy, even if
Right.
it doesn't seem to have any leaves left, if it can make it through, and that's kind of I don't know what kind of word that is, but it's a different kind of strong. It's different than what our media and pop culture portrays as strong. To
Right.
to get on the level, to be open, to be raw, to be tender. All those things take a lot of strength. They really
Right.
do.
Right.
And
There's a grounding of that strength that you were talking about with the trees, and that you think it takes time. It's weathered. There's a lot of things that is happening to allow that tree to be able to stand up through a storm.
yeah,
And I realize in places where I feel I feel like I wasn't strong, or
Mhm.
I would say I couldn't be strong, is because I didn't have any work in it. I didn't have any, I didn't have any awareness in, in that area. It
Mhm.
is, there was, I've mentioned before that I had trauma within my in my marriage, and feeling that um, this is what it was, and this is how I could handle it, and everything. And when the trauma hit, I felt that I don't think I have enough to kind of hold this together.
Mhm.
This is going to end. This is going to,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
dissolve. And it's like, I don't want that to be the case, but I don't have it in me.
Mhm.
And then it took me making different choices and making a commitment to say, okay, I'm going to do the things to shore up this, to kind of put a foundation, to kind of at least make, create boundaries, or create a foundation that whatever
Mhm.
is left, it can now start to grow. And I would have people comment on, how strong you are, and how, how this, how that. And I was like, dude, I was making it up as I went along. I mean, I had,
Totally.
you know,
Totally.
right. I had no awareness where that came from, but in some cases it started with, a word, a commitment, saying, this is what I want. This is what I'm committed to.
Yeah.
And let's just see how it,
That's
how it works out.
just yeah. Yeah. I think strong sometimes is just the willingness to continue putting one foot in front of the other, you know,
Right.
because you don't know where you're going next necessarily. And you might have a plan. And I'm a super big planner. Like I'm a worst case scenario thinker, type A. Like that's me. This whole thing with the pandemic has been for us as a business that has been shut down because of the mandates that the governor has put into place, and I understand what they're for, and I get it. But the situation it's created for us has been quite uh, catastrophic, to be honest. And
Right.
just walking through that of I have no idea what's about to happen. We might just lose everything in the next month or two. I just don't know. And so just making that it's like my husband and I we have this saying that sometimes we say to each other to just kind of encourage each other. I had to get to this place where I was like, you know what, they're gonna have to pry it from my cold dead hands. Like
Right.
I am gonna keep tracking this thing down, and I'm gonna do everything I can. I am like a dog with a bone over. I wasn't trying to be funny, but I am,
Right. No, that's
I'm
got it.
gonna track it down. And that resilience, I think strength and resilience are very similar. And um I don't know how, because I was sort of born this way, I'm not sure how other people who maybe don't identify with resilience, how they access that. But,
Right.
strength for me has shown up a lot of times as just a resilience of like, I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm going to keep coming back, and I'm going to keep coming back. And then,
Right.
at some point it just kind of breaks and you just kind of get through it. And that's been true, I think, personally as well.
Right. Um, you said something interesting, that, you were born that way. And I think, because I embrace the, we are all whole and complete, right? And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of things within us that we may not be aware of or have access to yet, but it's all there. And I think in some cases we are conditioned not to be resilient.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Totally.
and and so
Mm.
we have to be reminded, or put in situations where our resiliency shows up. It's like,
Totally.
all right,
Hmm.
all right.
Totally.
It's like, hell no, right? You one step too far, type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that happened, in my marriage. that's happened in, my businesses, going from, a failed business to, to now, a new business. And within that time period after the failed business to the startup anew, was a lot of hand wringing and feeling that, do I have what it takes to try this again? Do I want to try this again? Do I,
Preach,
that,
preach.
was it my, that was my turn, right? Type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
there was something that within me that said, you have it, and you can, whatever you commit to or want to do, you can do it. Just decide. And I think the more that I gained access to that, I had the strength, the stick-to-itiveness to kind of just, slowly go back and kind of show up, in this new form as, a coach and, a speaker and, an author. And it's like, there's, when you really get access to your strength or your resilience, anything is possible. And it's like, I don't accept, I guess, failure well, and I'm sure I'm going to have a conversation around the word failure, or
You need
something
to.
sometime
You
soon.
totally need to. Yeah.
But when businesses fail for me, it hurts my heart. When marriages fail, it hurts my heart. I mean, it's just like a deep thing. And so I understand that, failure is a part of success, right? I understand that on a level.
Yeah.
But at my core, it just, it just hurts me.
Oh yeah.
And so trying to stay in a strength or stay in, that can-do attitude, for encourage people to try again or to begin again or to stay, to stay in it, is something that I think we only can really do that when we have that self-awareness. And so that's why I believe my conversation of self-awareness and self-love is the key to have people get access to everything that they need to live their life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I 100%. There are things that, and I think all of us have had the experience of loving somebody and seeing such wonderful things in them, and they don't even know how wonderful they are. Like you see it, you know what I mean? And maybe that's because love sees the best, and and but yeah, I think that people have a lot of things that they don't know that they have, they don't know they possess. And to go back to something you were saying earlier about how, because you've experienced, different failures or traumas or whatever, and you survived them, I think that now you have the legs to stand on to get to the next level, if that makes sense. The next level of being tried and going through some shit. But for me, the same. I think because I had a very difficult childhood with a lot of all the stuff. If you ever read, there's like this criteria checklist for what leads people to into depression. Like if you ever, my life is just all those boxes, just check. Yeah. Just like weird stuff. Like I'm going to write a Lifetime movie one day and make so much money on it. It's going to be awesome. Cause that's my life. But I've been through some really unique, and not unique as in nobody else has ever experienced it, but nobody in my personal circle has experienced some of the things that I have. And because I have survived it, and it's funny, at the time, it didn't feel like a choice. At the time when I was young, when I was young, it just felt like that's just what I had to do to keep breathing. And
Mhm.
so that's why I've had a love-hate relationship with the word strong for so long, because strong to me felt like a slap in the face. It felt
Right.
like that was what was done to me. You know,
Mhm.
they made me strong. They made me that way by doing all the stuff they did. They made me that way. And it used to make me so infuriated, because I would maybe I would rather be a little less strong and have more
Right.
happy
Right.
memories.
Right.
um, but but I've learned over time that that's not actually true. They didn't make me strong. They showed me I was strong. You know, the
Right.
situations that they created, the situations, the choices that other people in my world, people who I trusted, people. You know, when you're young, you are so reliant on the choices that the adults in your world make, and
Right.
my the folks in my world just didn't have an awareness to understand how it was impacting myself or my brother. And so I think now I can look at it and say, no, they didn't make me strong. I don't owe that to them. I don't owe my strength to them. What happened was they created circumstances where I learned that I could access that strength, and I learned that I could be that strong. And now, because I have had, 30 years or whatever of being that way, now I have this kind of really, like, I do have a more versatile and flexible confidence to step into new situations, even if I don't know how it's going to go down, because I'm like, well, it can't be any worse than,
Right.
that, or
Right.
maybe
Right.
it will be, but I've been through that, so I can get through this.
Right, you can get through this. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that too. And I think I embrace what you were saying of not allowing situations or things to define me or
Mhm.
give that the credit. Say that,
Right.
hey, my failing business made me this or
Mhm.
that. It was that situation um, revealed what was really in me, what I could handle, what I for whatever reason felt that I didn't need or I didn't access consistently or whatever. But and I think the other thing, by taking on that mentality that circumstances and people reveal what's in you, is that it it gives me power, or it helps me take responsibility for my choices and
Totally.
my actions and what I'm doing, and that I can cause things in my life versus I had a conversation, a bonus conversation that I'll share in a few days, and the word was cause. And within that conversation, we were just like, I want to cause my life instead of just report my life, and say that,
Mm.
blame, it's like, well, this happened because of this and this happened because of this, and I, and just kind of have this almost victim mentality on how life is showing up for me, but
Mhm.
really take ownership that it's like, all right, this happened. It could be terrible or not, but I have a choice, and I can cause something else to happen. I
Yeah.
can I can do that. I have the ability, if I take responsibility, if I take
Mhm.
ownership, I have within me the ability to cause my life.
Mhm.
And I think the more that I embrace that, the more
Mhm.
I can stay humble and access to the strength, the resilience, to stay in my life. It
Mhm.
is it is really it was really interesting that a large part of my life, I felt that I was on, autopilot, or I was just allowing the other labels to kind of run the show. And it was like, the expectations of other people was kind of running my life. And when I made a decision or had an awareness that, hey, I can decide and I have choices to make, it is, it's almost like the entrepreneur life. It's like the good news, I'm the boss. The bad news, I'm the boss, right?
Totally.
It's like crap, it's like, yeah, it's just, it's those moments that, the more that I kind of like, I guess, deal with the fact that I'm in charge of my life,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and can deal
Yeah.
with that.
I think the one thing one of the last things I'd want to say about the word strong, because it's coming, it's like when you hold a magic 8 ball and you shake it up and then you see the words just kind of come up to the top and it's like, oh, I understand it now. I had that moment just a second ago when you were speaking.
Okay.
I think the one of the most important things about being strong or accessing strength or possessing strength or coming off as strong or one of those things is you have to be willing to do the really hard stuff. And whether that's making the decision to fight for your marriage, or whether that's making the decision to put boundaries in place between somebody who is harmful to you and yourself,
Right.
or whether it's the decision to do what's required to see your business through, or whether it's, whatever it is. I think the thing that for me, as I've heard you speaking and as I'm thinking through words and thoughts in my own mind, there's this willingness of doing what is scary and hard because it must be done. And I think,
Right.
and that is a consistent requirement for strength. I think you
Right.
have to be willing to take that next step. And sometimes no matter how hard it is, how painful it is, what it costs,
Right.
or be willing to suffer the consequences for not.
Right.
But there's an active, you're presently active in every moment, making those choices, making those decisions. And it's not, that for me is something that feels very true for the word
Mm.
strong. It's not letting things roll you over without you at least, sometimes you let things roll you over, but you make the choice. Like sometimes
Right.
I'm like, I'm going to let that just roll right over me, and I'm just
Right.
going to have to deal with it on the other side because it's not worth the effort to fight it.
Right.
So I think that willingness to do the hard stuff is really key.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And that's, we could talk for for hours, but I'm
Mhm.
sure there are other things that call our attention for today. But this has really been great because it really lets me know that, there's a choice, and I have access, to strength and strong. And so thank you for having this conversation with me.
Yeah.
Um, and my prayers are that, no matter how, you know, your latest venture works out, I know that your hands, your heart, and all the resources available to you will be there to make sure that, um, every stone will be unturned, to that it'll work out the
Yeah.
way it needs to. And um, I don't have any dogs, but I wish I could, be in the wonderful establishment that you've created and that will still be available, for people to gather and to enjoy. So thank you very much, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Phil. This was fun.
Yeah, could you sit in the green room for a moment, and
Sure.
I'll be right to you. Um, wow, thank you, very much for joining, us today. I guess the question that I have, um, for you is, how does strong land for you? I mean, I'd love for you to put in the comments, or I'll share if you're watching live or watching later, and just kind of, let's see, recognizing that in order to really access, my strength, there is a level of humility that has to tag along with it, or it will be, not received, or if it is received, it will be received totally different than I would want it to be received. So as we continue on our day, I invite you to grab hold to this, that the world wants you, the world needs you, and the world has been waiting for you. So go be you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.